on the ground, and they kind of each alert each other to potential predators, depending on what those are. They kind of are on the lookout for each other. The fallow deer has the unique flattened antlers, and we have two examples of fallow deer here. We have our Sika deer, which it says has spots as an adult. You can see these faint spots here. I don't know, but that's one of the characteristics. So you might say, how are they different from deer? The Rusa deer here, which I don't know if the lighting's not very good, but Rusa is red, has kind of a reddish color. Not to be confused with the red deer, which is a kind of similar or close relative to the elk and found in parts of Europe. So our red deer. And then we have brown bears. Just brown bears are fun. So grizzly is just one subspecies of brown bear. Okay, so they're not all grizzly bears. There's the Kodiak. I think it's a Kodiak bear, one of the largest brown bears. We have other grizzlies around, European brown bear, so on. The caribou. We have two caribou. Both male and female have antlers, and which is unique. Some of the deer. They also eat primarily lichen. You guys remember what lichen is? They live kind of up near where the permafrost is, so there's not a whole lot of vegetation. The wolves here, we have two gray wolves. They can, I think in the part it says something about they can eat one of the most widely distributed mammals on Earth, and man and now rats probably most widely distributed. I think it says something about eating something 10 times their size. Is that what it says? I don't know what it says. I forget what it says, but I don't know if I asked those questions. But widely distributed mammal. Our moose is the largest of the deer, and they eat aquatic vegetation to supplement their salt requirement. So they kind of have this in there talks about how they get their energy requirements from plants on land, but then they get their salt requirements from the aquatic plants. You should know beaver. Beaver build their homes are called lodges. Then for our red fox, we have two red fox. We have a traditional red fox and then a melanistic red fox, but they're both red fox. You should know the males are called Renards, the females are called Vixens for that one. For the badger, you should know that the badger has very loose fur, so that if something tries to grab it, it can kind of turn around on it and attack it. The wolverine is one of our largest mustelids, which is the weasel family, and they can hunt much larger prey by attacking the back of the neck. And there's great videos of them taking down big deer and so on. Mountain lion, we talked about the largest of the small cats, and there's our bobcat here. I don't know what kind of other characteristics I have on those. For the mule deer, the two on the left, you should know the range of them. The mule deer are found west of the Rockies, whereas the white-tailed deer are found east of the Rockies, although their range is expanding kind of up into Oregon, Washington area. Another caribou. For the mountain goat, here's our mountain goat here. They have specialized adaptations in their hooves that allow them to climb very steep surfaces, up to I think 60 degrees of incline. Our musk ox gets its name from the musk odor that it releases to attract females. We have our raccoon here. I don't know what we have for the raccoon. They're in the carnivore lineage. I don't know what it says in the card for them. We have our kit fox, which is a small fox found in some of our local deserts. Our muskrat here. I think it's our muskrat. Do I call it a muskrat and it's not a muskrat?
You mean the pine
No,
marten?
13. Oh, woodchuck. See, I always call it a muskrat, and it's not. It's a woodchuck. Woodchuck. Sorry. The pine marten's here. So here's a pine marten here. We have a couple different squirrels, both of which are the fox squirrels that you see on campus. So remember, we talked about tree squirrels and ground squirrels. These are tree squirrels. These are the invasive tree squirrels we have in Southern California, the fox squirrel, which are found in the eastern states. We have two Arctic fox here. And you can see they're kind of both in the same position. This is common with taxidermy. They kind of have a mold that they have for specific species. Our elk here, which is one of the largest deer, the moose being the largest deer, and they're called the wapiti, which is another name for the elk, which means kind of white rump. Here's our black bear. We have our black bear rug or fur here. I can ask you that. We have a bison hide there. I don't think we have any questions on bison, unfortunately, but we should. And then we kind of start Africa with our giraffe. One of the questions we asked was kind of how many cervical vertebrae do they have, and I think the reason we asked that is because they're known for their long neck. However, they have the same number of cervical vertebrae as us. They just evolved to be much larger. They have the kind of long tongue on the ossicone. They're in Artiodactyla, our even-toed ungulates, and then we have our white rhino and black rhino. You should know the difference. White rhino has the big lip, black rhino has the smaller prehensile front lip, both in Percodactyla, our odd-toed ungulates. There's our rhinoscope there. Then we have our leopards. Our leopards are known for taking their food up into the trees to prevent them from being scavenged by other predators on the savannah, especially our spotted hyena here. One of our scavengers there. For our oryx species, we have our gemsbok here and our fringe-eared oryx. You should know that their adaptations, both of them, can raise their body temperature. And in doing so, they can kind of prevent themselves from overheating and conserve water that way, so they can actually have somewhat flexible internal temperature. The southern roan, I think for the southern roan they talk about kind of them using, and it's also the sable. So we have two sable here. These use their large horns in battles between males for mates. I don't know how to say this. This is a new, a brand new. We got this just recently from Kelsey. It's called Schmider or Schmider.
Scimitar?
Scimitar. Is that?
I think that's what it looks like. Yeah. And that's what it is.
Scimitar or Scimitar? Anyway, Mark and I were going back and forth. I don't know. I'll have to look it up. But anyway, what's interesting about this is that they were functionally extinct in the wild. So they were extinct in the wild. They existed on some small reserves and game reserves. They've actually been reintroduced back into the wild, which is a huge success story. So I don't know how they're going to make it or not. It's really interesting. It's odd that we have this like endangered species here. It's probably part of the problem. The Himalayan tar. So for these ones here, you should know the Himalayan tar. The Spanish ibex here, and then the mouflon here. So don't worry, these other ones are domesticated sheep here. Don't worry about these ones here. I think for the ibex and the tar can, in the Himalayas are very cold. That's why it has this very long coat here to keep it warm in the very cold Himalayas. The ibex can, like many, like our bighorn sheep as well, can move to higher elevation to evade predators. So it's a way that they can escape by climbing very steep surfaces. More inclines. The wild boar is our European species that was brought to the States. It's an invasive species. It's a relative of our domesticated pig. I think that's what it says on the card, something about being a relative of domesticated pig. Two more brown bears. The tiger, you should know the size of a tiger. They get to about 11 feet and 600 or over 600 pounds. They are solitary predators, the largest cat in the world. Then we have our water buffalo here. Well, I didn't say our chamise here. Chamise or chamis. And it says that those horns, they defend themselves. Those horns are kind of all curled over. They defend themselves by putting their head down and lifting up quickly. So that's the behavior that they have. That's what's on the card. I may ask that. And then for these, I will have you know the different common names for these different buffalo here. So we have what's called the bentang. The bentang has the bell. That's how I remember it. The dwarf, the Asiatic, and then the Cape. So we have two Cape buffalo. The Asiatic has the kind of a dark, looks like a little toupee on top. That's how I remember it. And then the dwarf. So you should know that, and you should know that they're known for their sense of smell. They have a very good sense of smell. So I think I asked something like that. The brush-tailed possum is a marsupial. And I think, like I said, it's possum, not opossum. We have different springbuck and bok, B-O-K. They're known for pronking or snotting, which is the behavior where they kind of just jump straight up in the air. It's a way to kind of, we think maybe a behavior to show off, basically, the potential predators, like, hey, look how fit I am, I'll outrun you. we have a couple dikers, so those two are diker, they're very different in size, and I think this here is a new specimen, it's a diker. Diker, you should know, get their name from the Dutch. Many of these names come from Dutch names. I think they colonized much of Africa, or Central Africa, so. And diker refers to diver. They're known to dive into the bushes. I guess that's where they got the name, so you should know that. The dik-dik is a full-grown antelope here, the smallest antelope species. And because they're so small, we talk about surface area. We didn't really talk about it in here, surface area to volume ratio, but the smaller something is, especially a mammal, the more heat they lose, so they have to have a high energy diet, high metabolism. So they're known for having a very specific diet. They're known as concentrate selectors, at least on the card it mentions that, because they have to select very high energy diet items. That's because of their small size. And then our Garanuk, here's our Garanuk here has this really long neck here, and they're known for this behavior where they'll actually kind of stand on their hind legs and feed on the acacia, like this here. So, and I ask, what's the behavior? You see it right there. And then we have our gazelle. I don't know what they have for the gazelle on the card. I apologize. I don't remember what I asked, but one of our fast antelopes that is common prey species for some of our large cats. And then we have our olive baboon. You should know old world monkey. We have our kind of those butt plates there. We have our eland. You should know the eland is the largest antelope and has what's called the dewlap. So the dewlap is that hair, or the skin hanging down on the neck. I think it might be involved in thermoregulation, allowing it to gain a receipt. Our velvet monkey, another old world monkey with the blue balls. I forget what they have. I think even on the card, remember we were talking about the constructive interference, there is no real blue. So I think even the card says that the blue is just bending light. Our bush buck, B-U-C-K, we have two here. These are really beautiful antelopes. It says that they're one of the most dangerous middle-sized antelopes because they will, while being hunted, they will kind of ambush potential hunters, come out and spear them with their horns. I don't know how true that is, but that's what it says in the card. Our kudu, so just kudu, they have the spiral horned antelope. They have sexual dimorphism. So sexual dimorphism, male and female look different. I think that's what it says in the card. They exhibit sexual dimorphism. For our elephant, we have our African and Asiatic. The skull is of an Asian elephant, and the picture is of an African elephant. We also have the tusks of an African elephant here. And they talk about how they have kind of air chambers in their skull to lighten the skull up. Otherwise, it's too heavy. So there's some other characteristics there. I remember talking about Proboscidae, the order having being related to manatees and hyrax, and they have the horizontal tooth replacement, so they're constantly replacing their teeth. We have a blesbok here. The blesbok are goat-like antelopes, and they don't like to jump. A lot of our antelopes are known for jumping. They're not big jumpers. They rather go under things. And then up on top we have our impala. Impala, another thing like our gazelle, commonly preyed on by some of our large cats. Very fast.
So what year is the best Impala?
64.
64?
Convertible. Well, yeah, that's what I told him. I said, you got to know what year is the best Impala. So for being a car guy, the 64 Impala is the one everyone likes. I personally, I think I like the 66, 67. It's a little longer. For the wildebeest, these are all the wildebeest here. What's interesting is there are two species of wildebeest, the black and the blue. So that's the black and these are the blue. And but the populations have been kind of isolated. So you start to see these subspecies of wildebeest. And you can see how these are all one species, but you can see how different. This one kind of has these stripes on the neck and so the line. So you can see that they're starting to kind of evolve to have these very different characteristics of the small population. But as I pointed out in the lecture, or in lab, we have that great infographic on the importance of the wildebeest in the savannah. I think Diana said, and I think it's accurate, they said that it's a keystone species. I will likely change this card. I think you guys should know and appreciate the wildebeest for being one of the largest migrations in the world and also being an important keystone species for the savanna habitat. They provide food for lots of different animals, not just our large cats, but when they die, their carcasses are fed on by lots of different animals, crocodiles and so on. So, our hartebeest here, I was just looking up a little research on the hartebeest. Another really interesting another species. I think they have 8 different subspecies of hartebeest. So recent genetic analysis has kind of been figuring out, and that paper that I have assigned to you guys as extra credit, if you read it, I think it's a fantastic paper on how these species, why we have such diversity of African ungulates, and it has a lot to do with kind of populations becoming isolated. And the hartebeest is an example of that. Kind of small pockets become isolated, and as a result, they start to become different over time. Over here we have a couple different cob species. So Cobus, I believe, is the genus, and we have the western cob, the waterbuck, and the lechwe are all in the Cobus genus. And one of the characteristics of the Cobus, and I think they all, on the cards, they all kind of say this in different ways. They will secrete the greasy, kind of musky scent from their glands, their lymph nodes in their groin, and it's used to attract mates. Apparently, or deter predators. That's what I read. It's just a terrible smell. But it may also provide some waterproofing. These animals are commonly found in and around water, so it might help waterproof the leg. Which reminds me, I forget it's the grand gazelle or the impala, one of which they will run into water when they get the predators. That's where the card says. So you should know lechwe here. These 3 are the waterbuck, and then we have our western cob here. For all of those, I might ask you about that greasy substance. They all kind of have that characteristic. And then our reed buck here. So these are our reed buck here. Another antelope that's common in and around water. And I think it says they also have a waterproofing on their legs that they can secrete. And then lastly, I think our last one is our warthog. And our warthog has kind of these fatty, they don't really know what the warts are. They're just like kind of fatty projections. They think it might be kind of a display or used in kind of male dominance, but you should know that the teeth here that make up the tusks are the canines, which are different from the tusks of elephants, which are the incisors. So I think that's it.